The observatory sat perched on the mountainside, miles from the nearest town, exactly how Dr. Elias Reed preferred it. The isolation suited him perfectly. Stars made sense. People didn't. Recording signal anomaly in Sector 47B, Elias muttered to himself as his fingers danced across the keyboard. The midnight air was cold against his skin, but he barely noticed. The signal patterns on his screen were far more interesting than physical discomfort. For 3 years, he had been monitoring this particular patch of sky, tracking unusual radio bursts that his colleagues had dismissed as equipment malfunctions. Elias knew better. There was a pattern. Here's something deliberate. Something intelligent, Dr. Reed? The voice startled him. He turned to see his graduate assistant, Maya, standing in the doorway with 2 steaming mugs. I brought coffee. You've been at it for 16 hours straight? Elias accepted the mug with a nod. The pattern changed tonight. Look, he pointed to his screen. These aren't random bursts. They're responding to our deep space transmissions. Maya sighed. Elias, we've been over this. The department is threatening to pull your funding again, Dr. Harrington says. Harrington wouldn't recognize First Contact if it danced naked on his desk, Elias snapped. Something is out there, Maya. Something is listening. Fine. Maya set her mug down. I'm heading back to campus. Please try to sleep before your presentation tomorrow. After she left, Elias turned back to his equipment. The signal was growing stronger, more defined. He adjusted his receivers, filtering out Earth's electromagnetic noise. Show me what you're trying to say, he whispered to the stars. At 3:47 a.m., everything changed. The random noise crystallized into a clear repeating sequence prime numbers, followed by the value of pi to 30 decimal places, followed by a mathematical expression Elias had never seen before. His heart raced as he began recording everything. This wasn't just contact. This was conversation. Hands shaking, he sent back a response, the Fibonacci sequence, followed by Earth's basic atomic structures. The reply came almost instantly, this time with complex equations that seemed to describe spatial coordinates. Elias worked through the night, translating, responding, barely noticing as the sun rose over the mountains. By morning, he had missed his presentation. His phone showed 17 missed calls from Maya and the department head. He ignored them all, too engrossed in this cosmic dialogue. As dawn broke fully over the observatory, Elias finally understood what the coordinates meant. They weren't just a location in space, they were directions. Something was coming. Tonight, he should have called someone, the university, NASA, maybe even the military. Instead, Elias simply prepared. He cleaned the small living quarters attached to the observatory, brewed fresh coffee, and gathered his research notes. If visitors were coming, he wanted to be ready. Evening fell with unusual clarity, the stars appearing brighter than Elias had ever seen them. At precisely midnight, the air around the observatory dome began to shimmer and distort, as if reality itself was being gently folded. A soft blue light illuminated the room, and Elias held his breath as a figure materialized before him, slender, graceful, and unmistakably not human. Dr. Elias read. The being said in perfect English, its voice melodic, "We have been watching you, and we have questions about that remarkable mind of yours." Elias stood frozen, his life's work vindicated in an instant. First Contact had arrived at his doorstep. The alien stood before Elias, her skin a rich purple that seemed to shimmer in the observatory's dim lighting. She was tall and slender with delicate features that appeared almost human, yet undeniably foreign, her eyes larger, her movements more fluid than any human could manage. "You can speak our language," Elias said, finding his voice at last. The alien tilted her head. "We've been monitoring your broadcasts for decades. Your English was simple to master." She walked gracefully around the observatory, examining his equipment with what looked like amusement. "Primitive technology, but you've managed to detect our signals nonetheless. Impressive." "For a human, who are you?" Elias asked, following her movements with fascination. "My name is Lyra. I am a scout for the Celestial Concordat, an alliance of advanced civilizations." She turned to face him directly. "Most of my colleagues laughed when I suggested investigating your signals. They said humans were too underdeveloped to be of interest. Elias felt a flush of indignation. Yet here you are, here I am, Lyra agreed, her expression softening. Because your responses to our mathematical queries were ... unexpected? No. Species at your developmental stage should have been able to solve the equations we sent. She approached him, raising a slender hand toward his temple, but stopping short of touching him. May I? Elias nodded, unsure what he was agreeing to. Lyra produced a small device from somewhere within her form-fitting attire and held it near his head. It emitted a soft humming sound. Extraordinary, she whispered. Your neural architecture, it's nothing like our models predicted for humans. What does that mean? Elias asked. Lyra's eyes met his, and for a moment, he felt something pass between them, a connection that transcended their biological differences. It means, Dr. Reed, that I was right to come here alone before reporting back. She tucked the device away. And it means you are in considerable danger. Outside, the night sky suddenly blazed with light as something massive moved across the stars. Lyra looked up sharply. They followed me. We must leave now. Leave, with you. But my research will mean nothing if the hegemony finds you first. Lyra took his hand, her touch unexpectedly warm. Your choice, Dr. Reed. Stay and meet a race that views humans as laboratory specimens. Or come with me and discover what that remarkable mind of yours is truly capable of. Elias glanced around the observatory as life's work, his sanctuary from a world that never understood him. Then he looked at Lyra, who offered something he'd never found on Earth: recognition. I'll come with you, he said, grabbing only his notebook and a photo of his late parents. But I need answers. Lyra's lips curved into a smile. That's what scientists always say, her fingers intertwined with his as the air around them began to shimmer. Hold tight, Elias. The first transition is always the most disorienting. The observatory dissolved around them, placed by a blinding light and the sensation of falling through an endless void. When Elias's vision cleared, he found himself in a chamber unlike anything he'd ever seen. The walls seemed alive with flowing equations and stellar maps, constantly shifting and updating. At the center stood a circular platform surrounded by beings of various forms, some humanoid like Lyra, the others utterly alien in appearance. Where are we? He asked, steadying himself against what appeared to be a console. My ship, Lyra replied, guiding him forward. And these are my research colleagues. A tall, crystalline being stepped forward. So this is the human with the impossible mind. Its voice resonated directly in Elias's thoughts. He looks remarkably ... ordinary. Lyra placed a protective hand on Elias's shoulder. Appearances deceive, Thorn. Show them. Elias. A holographic display appeared before him, showing complex equations that Elias recognized from their earlier communications, but now expanded into multidimensional formulae that should have been incomprehensible. Yet to Elias they made perfect sense. Without thinking, he reached out, manipulating the glowing symbols, rearranging them into a more elegant solution. The aliens watched in stunned silence as he worked, lost in the beauty of the mathematics. Impossible, whispered a diminutive being with iridescent skin. He's solving the vortex paradox. In his head, when Elias finished, he stepped back, suddenly aware of the attention. What? It's just a matter of viewing the problem from outside traditional dimensional constraints. Lyra's eyes shimmered with something like pride. You see, his brain perceives mathematical relationships that even our most advanced systems struggle to compute. How is this possible? Asked another alien. Humans are centuries from this level of cognitive evolution. Lyra guided Elias to a spherical chamber where a scan revealed his neural network displayed on surrounding screens. Elias possesses a rare mutation. His synaptic architecture allows him to process 11-dimensional mathematics intuitively. There are perhaps 5 beings in the known galaxy with similar abilities, and you found one on Earth. The crystalline being sounded skeptical. I followed the signals, Lyra said simply. His mind called out across space, and I answered. Later, alone with Lyra in what appeared to be living quarters, Elias finally asked the question burning inside him. Why me? What does this mean? Lyra sat beside him, closer than necessary. Your species is young, Elias. Most galactic civilizations view humans as primitive, barely worth monitoring. But you represent something unexpected. A mathematical savant? That hardly seems no, Lyra interrupted, taking his hand. A bridge. Your mind works like ours, but your perspective is uniquely human. You see solutions we cannot because you haven't been taught what's impossible. Her fingers traced patterns on his palm. The Concordat needs that perspective. I need it. The intensity in her gaze made Elias acutely aware of how close she sat, how the purple of her skin seemed to pulse with its own inner light. There's more, isn't there? He asked. Something you're not telling me? Lyra's expression grew serious. War is coming, Elias. The hegemony believes species like yours should be controlled or eliminated. The Concordat fights for your right to develop naturally, she hesitated. But with your abilities, you've become more than a principle to defend. You've become a strategic asset. A weapon, Elias said flatly. A key, Lyra corrected, her hand moving to his cheek. Two technologies even we barely understand. The question is, will you help us unlock them? Before Elias could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. Lyra jumped to her feet, suddenly alert. They've found us, she said grimly. The hegemony. And they want you, Elias Reed. The ship shuddered, as Lyra pulled Elias through corridors that seemed to rearrange themselves with each turn. Crew members of various species rushed past them, some calling out in languages his mind couldn't begin to process. What's happening? Elias asked, struggling to keep pace with Lyra's fluid movements. The hegemony tracked us faster than anticipated, she replied, her voice tight. Their flagship is attempting to lock us in a quantum stasis field. They reached what appeared to be the ship's command center, a vast chamber where dozens of aliens worked at stations that melded seamlessly with their bodies. A large view screen showed a menacing vessel approaching, angular and dark, bristling with what Elias could only assume were weapons. Tactical assessment, Lyra demanded. A being composed of what looked like liquid mercury responded, their technology has advanced. They're using interdimensional harmonics to disrupt our shields. Lyra turned to Elias. This is why they want you. The mathematics you solve so? Eselit's the key to their new weapon systems. I don't understand, Ela said. How could my solution your mind bridges gaps our scientists have struggled with for centuries? Lyra interrupted. What comes naturally to you could determine the outcome of this conflict. The ship jolted violently, throwing Elias against Lyra, her arms instinctively wrapped around him, steadying them both. The momentary embrace sent unexpected warmth through his body. We can't outrun them, the mercury being announced. Their convergence field will overtake us in 3 minutes. Lyra's expression hardened as she helped Elias to his feet, her hands lingering longer than necessary. Then we fight. Prepare the phase disruptors. Wait, Elias said, studying the tactical display. The equations governing the hegemony's attack were visible in the data streams. Their field relies on symmetric quantum alignment. If we introduce an asymmetric variable here, he pointed to a section of code, we could create a resonance cascade that would collapse their field from within. The command center fell silent as Lyra stared at him. That would require calculating 11-dimensional variables in real time? I can do it, Elias said with sudden certainty. But I'll need direct access to your ship's systems. Minutes later, Elias found himself connected to the ship's core processor, his mind expanding into realms of mathematics he'd never imagined possible. Through this connection, he sensed Lyra's presence, her concern, her faith in him, and something deeper, more personal. As the hegemony ship closed in, Elias implemented his solution. Space itself seemed to ripple between the vessels as the enemy's weapon turned against itself, creating a localized implosion that sent the dark ship tumbling away, its systems temporarily disabled. When Elias disconnected from the ship's systems, he found Lyra watching him with an expression that transcended species differences' admiration, mixed with something more intimate. You saved us, she said softly. For now, Elias replied, suddenly exhausted. But they'll be back, won't they? Lyra nodded. The hegemony doesn't forgive defeat, We've bought time, nothing more. That night, in the privacy of Lyra's quarters, she explained the full scope of the conflict. The hegemony believed in technological supremacy, that advanced species had the right to exploit or eliminate less developed ones. The Concordat fought for cooperative evolution, allowing each species to develop at its natural pace. Earth remains unaware of this war, Lyra said, sitting close beside him on what served as a bed. But it has raged across the galaxy for millennia, and now I'm part of it, Elias said, the weight of this realization settling onto his shoulders. Lyra's hand found his in the dim light. You were always part of it, Elias. You just didn't know it yet. Her touch sent electricity through him. Here, light years from Earth, Elias found himself drawn to this alien being in ways that defied rational explanation. I'm afraid, he admitted. Not of the hegemony, but of failing when it matters most. Lyra moved closer, the purple of her skin glowing softly in the darkened room. Fear is universal, Elias, even among the stars. Her hand gently turned his face toward hers. But so is this. The kiss that followed transcended species. Transcended worlds, a connection that needed no mathematics to explain its power or its truth. 3 weeks later, Elias stood before the Galactic Council, a gathering of representatives from 200 civilizations. The grand chamber on the neutral world of Nexus Prime hummed with whispered translations and subtle tensions. Lyra stood beside him, resplendent in formal attire that accentuated the purple luminescence of her skin. Their relationship had deepened during their journey Harabon that crossed biological boundaries and cultural divides. You're certain about this? She asked quietly as the council members took their positions. Elias nodded. It's the only way to protect Earth and end this conflict. The High Arbiter, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate vessel, called the Session to Order. We gathered to address the hegemony's petition to classify humans as a protected species under their supervision. Citing developmental concerns, a hegemony representative stepped forward tall and gray-skinned with eyes like polished obsidian. Humans possess dangerous potential without the wisdom to guide it. For their own protection, we offer stewardship. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Everyone present understood stewardship meant effective enslavement. The Concordat opposes this petition, Lyra declared, and offers evidence that humans are more advanced than previously assessed. 1. Exceptional specimen proves nothing, the hegemony representative countered. Gesturing dismissively at Elias, the High Arbiter turned toward him. Human Elias Reed, you may present your evidence. Elias stepped forward, his heart pounding. Everything Earth's future, his relationship with Lyra, the balance of power in the galaxy, hinged on what happened next. I'm not exceptional, he began. I'm just the first human you've truly bothered to know. He activated the device Lyra had helped him prepare. A holographic display appeared, showing the solution to the legendary axiomatic paradoxa. Problem that had stumped the galaxy's greatest minds for centuries. This is my solution, Elias said, not adapted from your work, but derived independently using mathematical principles that come naturally to human cognition. The chamber erupted in astonished whispers as the council members examined his work. Impossible, the hegemony representative hissed. He must have been coached. Test me, Elias challenged. Any problem right now. For the next hour, council members presented increasingly complex mathematical and theoretical problems. Elias solved each one, demonstrating not just computational ability, but innovative approaches that even the most advanced AI systems couldn't replicate. When the tests concluded, the High Arbiter's energy form pulsed with what Elias had come to recognize as excitement. In 10,000 years of council history, we have never witnessed such potential in a species previously classified as pre-emergence, the Arbiter announced. The human petition for independent development status is granted. The hegemony's request for stewardship is denied. The hegemony representatives, face twisted with rage before smoothing into diplomatic neutrality. We accept the council's decision. For now, as the chamber emptied, Lyra embraced Elias, her joy radiating through her touch. You did it. Earth is protected by galactic law now. We did it, he corrected, holding her close. Later, standing on a balcony overlooking the spectacular rings of Nexus Prime, Elias contemplated the journey ahead. Tomorrow, he would return to Earth as its first unofficial ambassador to the galactic community. There would be challenges explaining his absence, convincing world leaders of the truth, preparing humanity for its new place in the cosmos. Having second thoughts? Lyra asked, joining him at the railing, her hand finding his. About my role? No, Elias turned to face her. About us. I'm wondering how this works a human and a... What do you call yourselves again? Lyra laughed, the sound like music. Lysarian. And we aren't the first cross-species pair in the galaxy, though perhaps the first involving a human. Pioneering in more ways than one, Elias said with a smile. The Council has appointed me as liaison to Earth, Lyra said, her fingers intertwining with his. So it seems we'll have time to figure it out together. Elias looked up at the unfamiliar stars, then back to Lyra's face, once so alien, now beloved and familiar. They laughed at my human body, he said softly. Until I showed them this, he tapped his temple, then placed his hand over his heart. And this, Lyra's expression softened as she pulled him closer. In the end, Elias, it's not the differences in our bodies that matter, but the similarities in our souls, as their lips met beneath alien skies. Elias knew that whatever challenges awaited, they would face them together, a bridge between worlds, built on understanding, respect, and love.